Hey, I'd like to introduce you to yourself. This is the Seeking SELFDOM Going Deeper podcast, and I'm your host, Akello Stone.
What can we do to help rejuvenate our imagination and awaken creativity?
Being someone like myself who really is constantly exercising creativity in every way possible, I find it quite easy to do that. It's just my natural flow. But if you found that you are really in this stagnant place where creativity is waning, where the distractions and the mundane nature of everyday life just begins to take its toll on you, one way that you can really invigorate imagination is to be around little kids. I love being around little kids, whatever age. They all offer something differently. You get to observe them exploring the world, problem solving. You get to do fun things with them, and it's okay as an adult to do that with little kids. Just this summer, it's my little niece Mia, and she had one of those slip and slides, and they hose it off, and she's like 4 years old, just full of life, full of energy, full of just go, 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 go. And of course, I played for a while, and I had to stop because I can't keep up with a 4-year-old. But what it does to me is it reminds me that being a child is a beautiful thing. Exploring the world, everything's new, everything is just an experience. And then somewhere along the line, we lose that. I think we forget about it. It's still there, but we lose touch with that part of who we are. And so if you need to kind of jumpstart that, hang out with kids. If you don't have any kids to hang out with, then I suggest you get some kids' toys. One thing I feel like I'm the spokesperson for Play-Doh, because I mentioned clay, but also Play-Doh. When I pick up Play-Doh as an adult and I smell Play-Doh, I don't know if you've smelled Play-Doh, if you've even played with it, probably has. Sometimes you can make it yourself. It doesn't always turn out. But the smell of Play-Doh as an adult just reinvigorated this imagination, this wonder, this excitement of what can I do? How can I, make something out of this clay? Where does it come from? It comes from my imagination. It comes from my imagination and the way that it is never really gone. It just gets put in the back burner. Kind of like when if you have a room of storage or a closet, and this stuff just piles up and we never really look through it. And we don't see it because it's locked away, but it's still there. So you can unlock your imagination, and those are two strategies. And I think that another way you can really explore imagination is in the kitchen. Either cooking something different, baking something different, following a recipe, doing something that's completely different, that's out of your comfort zone. Again, being imaginative is usually something that has not been seen or experienced, but something that just comes to mind as an accumulation of everything that we've seen and done and who we are as a person, and injecting that. It's kind of like the combination, it's almost like imaginative that we're even here in this form, right? That's an imaginative way of thinking. But yeah.
Social media is providing people with the opportunity to be famous in ways never possible before. What do you think drives the desire to be famous? Is it purely the ego, or can it be a selfless act to reach others?
Wow, I think that it's hard to know what the motivation is, and I think Cole, you were right. There are two reasons I think people want to be famous. Is they want to have this huge platform where they can reach as many people as possible, but then there's other people who their very existence becomes validated as they become more and more successful, more and more famous. But there's definitely some drawbacks with fame. There's the almost relinquishing of any sort of private life. And if that's something that you value, that's a sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifices with fame. I've known famous people. I wouldn't want to be famous on the level that they are famous. You know, I'm in the category of I'd like to reach more people. How can I do it? But I don't want to have a life where it's dictated by someone else's desires and where I'm constantly judged and constantly monitored out loud. You know, it's different than people having a perception of you. But when they communicate those things to other people, you know, you run the risk of your image being destroyed that quickly. All the years and decades that you may have put into building this fame, and one move that you make, which may or may not expose who you really are, could just be a very, reckless thing you said or did, or, you know, it's, I recently watched the Tiger Woods documentary on HBO. It was a 2-part documentary. It was very well done. And to see, you know, his life and how he rose to that level of fame, but then how his image was tarnished by, I would say, just being a person who made bad decisions, which we all make bad decisions. Some are so small no one would ever know, or they don't impact us, but we all make bad decisions. We can't take them back. It's already done, right? But most of us are not under the microscope like that. So there is huge risk. So it's like the greater the risk, they say, the greater the reward. But if you really think about it, if you put everything into being famous and then that's all taken away, that would be really, really hard to accept. It'd be really hard to be in that position. So I always tell people, you know, proceed cautiously. But I have known people who have, as a result of their increase in status and leveling up, they became more and more disconnected from me. And so the person that I once knew is no longer that person. Gosh, that would be really hard to be someone who, as a result of their fame, is almost shaped into another person to the point where they don't even know themselves. I certainly wouldn't want that. I'm sitting here every day trying to get to know myself, and then if I'm trying to play a role for the people, for the audience, you know, I think it's a very slippery slope.
You said we seem to have lost the unfettered persistence to overcome unforeseen challenges. Is it the advancement of technology that has made life too easy, in a sense, for some of us? Or do you see another cause for the resistance to deal with the difficult situations?
I think many of us think life is just always about finding happiness and everything's going to be okay. And when things are not okay, we fall apart. We lose it. Our ground that we stood on is no longer there. But the real question is, was it really there? Was that comfort that we are always seeking, you know, we're pleasure seekers, right? Is that comfort that we always seek, was it really there? And when we had it, did we appreciate it? You know, because there are going to be a lot of things that happen in your life that are unpleasant. There's a lot of things in life that are great, but there's also a lot of things in life that are unpleasant. If we constantly try to avoid them and put energy into them and throw blame, we're not really becoming good problem solvers, are we? Talking about imagination, I mean, using your imagination to solve problems that will occur, both big and small, complex and simple. There are some problems that will not be solved in one day or 1 week or 1 month. And we have to accept that. We have to assess these moments of discomfort, and we have to figure out how we got there, and we have to find ways to, you know, to resolve it if we can. Now, there's also certain things, this discomfort that can never really be resolved. So how do we live with that? How do we live with that? You know, the pain of losing someone, someone passes away who we're close to, who we love, is hard. It's a universal experience. And some people, well, I'm not going to say some people, everybody has a different way of responding to that. And we'll call it grief, right? Grief is a universal concept, idea. There is grief and loss, even in the animal kingdom. But how we deal with that is just as unique as each and every one of us are. Now, there are some people who go through life and have had tragedy after tragedy, and they learn to take it in stride. They learn to understand and accept that these things are going to happen, and this is a part of life, and there's no way around it. And sometimes you can resolve things, and sometimes you cannot. And accepting that you cannot resolve something is resolution in and of itself, isn't it? So we've got to take the good with the bad. We got to take, the discomfort with the comfort. It's just a part of life. And as we grow older, the longer you live, the more people you see die. The longer you live, it's highly likely you're going to have physical problems with your joints and just, a host of things. The body takes a beating, right? For decades and decades and decades. So here you are in your 70s, 80s, and you're in discomfort all the time. But you're still alive. You're still here. There's still things you can do. There's still thoughts you can have. There's still people you can love and who will love you back after you've gotten through those difficult times. There's much more to life than just that particular challenge that you have to overcome. You have to look at the bigger picture. You have to look at all that life has and all that your life is about. And and you'll probably find, and I think people use the word gratefulness a lot. And when I hear gratefulness, let's not only be grateful for the things that bring us joy, but we also have to be grateful that we are alive and we can persevere through things that are difficult. And I hope you can do that, and I hope you continue to work on getting to know yourself. You've been listening to Seeking Selfdom Going Deeper. I'm your host, Akello Stone. Peace.